Okay, you're about to take a quiz on this, so about to take a quiz. So the A, B, and C on number 1, you're looking for the sum, just the total. So this is just the n minus 2 times 180. N minus 2 times 180. So pentagon has how many sides? 5. So you're going to do 5 minus 2 times 180. And remember, if you type the whole thing in, make sure you put that 5 minus 2 in parentheses. All right, so total of a pentagon, if you had all 5 angles of a pentagon up, what do they add up to? 540. Okay? Okay, heptagon has how many sides? 7 sides. So 7 minus 2 times 180 is 900 degrees. And then a 17gon obviously has 17 sides. So 17 minus 2 times 180 is what? 2,700 degrees. 2,700 degrees. Okay? Now, the next group here says find the measure of each interior angle, and this is assuming that this is a regular polygon where all the sides are the same, all the angles are the same. So on this one, it's basically where we do the total, n minus 2 times 180. But what do I do from there to find the measurement of one of those? Divide it by the number of sides. So you take the total n minus 2 times 180, then you divide that by how many sides or how many angles there are, and it tells you how big one of them is. So on a hexagon has how many sides? 6. So 6 minus 2 times 180, that would give you the total, but I want to know how big one of those is, so I'm going to take that total and divide it by 6 angles. And so you can type the whole thing in your calculator just like that. So 6 minus 2 times 180 divided by 6 is
120.
Okay, so each angle in a regular hexagon is 120 degrees. Okay, for an octagon, so we have 8 minus 2 times 180 divided by 8. How big is each angle in an octagon? 135 degrees. Okay, then in a 23gon, so we got to find the total first. 23 minus 2 would tell us the total. And I'm going to take whatever that is, divide it by the 23 angles, and that'll tell me how big one of the angles is. And this is going to give you a decimal. 164.35 degrees. Alrighty. Okay, so number 3. What type of shape is this on number 3?
A pentagon.
It's a pentagon. It's got 5 sides. So in a pentagon, what should the 5 angles add up to?
360.
540.
Look, we actually did the exact thing right here on on 1A. In a pentagon, the 5 angles should add up to 540. So be careful on your quiz, because for some of you, you're going to have a pentagon like this, because the quiz looks very similar. So for some of you, you're going to have a pentagon. All the angles add up to 540. Some of you are going to have a quiz where it's a quadrilateral, where it adds up to 360. So make sure you pay attention for that. But on this one, it's a pentagon. These 5 angles are going to add up to 540 degrees. Okay, yesterday we added all this up in our head. I'm going to go ahead and write it out this time. Okay, so how big is angle A?
90 degrees.
Okay, so we have 90 plus. So I've already got that one. How big is, I'm just going to go around here. So how big is angle E? 2x plus 10 plus how big is angle D? X plus how big is angle C? 2x minus 20, that's that one. And then finally, how big is angle B? 90. It is 90. Okay, so I added up all 5 of those angles. And when I add up all 5 of those angles together, what are they going to equal? 540. They're going to equal 540, what we talked about up here. And then from there, it's just solving for x. Okay, so let's combine like terms. We have 2x, 1x, and 2x. How many x's is that?
5.
5x. Okay, now we just need to add up the constants here, just the numbers. So 90, 10, negative 20, and 90. So 90 plus 10 is 100. Minus 20 is
190.
80. Plus
170.
90 is 170. Yep, equals 540. Subtract 170 from both sides. This zeroes out. We have 5x equals 370. Divide by 5, and x equals what?
74.
X equals 74. Now what we need to do is take that and plug that 74 in to find out how big these angles are real quick. Well, angle A and angle B I already know are 90. So those are already done. How big is angle D? 74, because angle D is just x, and x is 74, so angle D is 74 degrees. For angle C, I'm going to plug in 74, so I'm going to do 2 times 74 minus 20.
120.
It's what?
128. Oh, that was right.
128 degrees.
And 150.
And then for angle E, I'm going to plug in 74, so 2 times 74 plus 10 is what? 158 degrees. Okay, and then for the last little thing right here, find the measure of each exterior. So remember yesterday we did our little thing, we measured that. What do the exterior angles always add up to? 360. It doesn't matter what shape it is, okay? On the exterior, they add up to 360. Now, on the interior, it does depend on how many sides, but for the exterior, it's always just 360. And again, we're going to assume these are regular polygons. So I want to know how big is each exterior angle of a nonagon. How many sides does a nonagon have? 9. So I'm going to take 360 total degrees, divide that by the 9 angles. So how big is each exterior angle of a nonagon? 40 degrees. And then each exterior of a 16 gon. So 360 total divided by 16. This gives you a decimal. 22.5 degrees each. So on your quiz, I mean, it's basically the exact same type of problems. Exact same process.
Oh my gosh,
It's today?
Like right
like
now.
right now.
So technically,
Okay, so let's go ahead and look here now. So over the last couple days, we've just been talking about polygons in general. Could have 4 sides, could have 10 sides, 100 sides, whatever. Today we're really going to kind of start focusing in on one specific type of polygon, and that is quadrilaterals. We're going to focus on 4-sided shapes. Really for most of this unit, that's going to be where our focus is going to be, is on 4-sided shapes. So today specifically, we're going to be talking about parallelograms. Okay? Parallelograms. So a parallelogram is a quadrilateral with 2 pair of parallel sides. Parallelogram is a quadrilateral with 2 pair of parallel sides. So if you remember, we've talked about this whenever you see this little set of arrowheads like this, that's telling you that those lines are parallel. So those 2 sides are parallel to each other, and then these sides are parallel to each other. And the reason one has 1 and one has 2 is just to show that they're different sets of lines, obviously. Now, there are 4 main properties of parallelograms, okay? So there's 4 main properties of parallelograms we're going to talk about. So the first one is that opposite sides are congruent in a parallelogram. Opposite sides are congruent. So opposite means just what that says. They're on the opposite sides from each other. So like for instance, if this side is 3 inches, this side is 3 inches. If this side is 7 inches, this side is 7 inches. All right, so that's the first property. Opposite sides are congruent. All right, second one is that opposite angles are congruent. Opposite angles are congruent. So what that means is like this, is like if angle F is 80 degrees, then angle H is 80 degrees. this is an example of opposite angles. And so then within that picture right there, angle G and angle J are opposite angles. They'd be congruent to each other. All right, so that is the second property. Opposite angles are congruent. All right, third property is that consecutive angles. First of all, let's talk about what consecutive means. What does consecutive mean just in general? Continuous or in order or right next to, okay? So, I mean, there's a lot of different stuff in order. So within this, what consecutive means is just like it's the angles that are right next to each other. So consecutive angles are supplementary. Consecutive angles are supplementary. And what does supplementary mean?
The same. Or no, 180.
Okay, good. It means they add up to equal 180. All right? So consecutive angles are supplementary. They add up to 180. So up here, what that means is like this, is that, so these two angles right here are an example of consecutive angles. They're right next to each other. So if angle F is 80 degrees, how big is angle G?
80.
It's 100 degrees, right? You're good. Okay, because those two right there are supplementary. And so how big is angle H going to be? 80, because these two right here are going to be supplementary. Okay, no, you're right. And you could also think about it like that. Okay, these are opposite angles right here. Okay, and you can see those are congruent. It's just common sense, really. So that's the third one, is that consecutive angles are supplementary. And then the last property is that the diagonals bisect each other. The diagonals bisect each other. Okay, so a diagonal, that's talking about like going from one vertex or one corner to another. So like FH right here, this is a diagonal. Okay, and then the other diagonal here is this one, G to J. So GJ is the other diagonal there. And they bisect each other. And what does bisect mean?
Cross.
Well, okay, that's it. Bisect means to cut exactly in half. So where the diagonals cross each other, they cut each other exactly in half. Okay? So like if from here to here is 2 inches, then it's going to be 2 inches over here. Because GJ, the blue one's cutting the red one exactly in half. And then same thing is going to be true on the other way. Okay, vice versa. The GJ is cut in half by FH. Where like if this is 1.5 inches, this is going to be 1.5 inches. Okay, and I know that's tiny on your paper. You probably can't fit that in there, but. So that is our fourth property. Diagonals bisect each other. Okay, so let's just look at applying these properties right here, which is pretty simple. So on number 1, we want to know the length of AB. How long is AB right here? 10. Okay. Which one of those properties lets you know that? This one right here, the first one. Opposite sides are congruent to each other. Okay, number 2, how big is angle D?
70.
Okay, good. It's 70. Which one of these 4 properties, lets you know that? Right here, this one. Consecutive angles are supplementary. So these two right here add up to 180 degrees, right? They're supplementary. Those are consecutive angles. All right, number 3, how long is ML? It's 12 meters. How long is LP? 10 meters. It's the same as this one over here. Okay, number 5 asks for the measurement of angle LPM. So LPM is this angle, bless you, this angle right here. Now, we're not going to find the measurement of that based off of any of these four properties. It's off of something else that we know. It's going to be equal to this one. How do I know these two angles are equal to each other? Good. Alternate interior angles, and this is a parallelogram of parallel lines, so those lines are parallel. Good. So that angle LPM is just going to be 62 degrees. Alrighty. How long is LN, this whole diagonal? It's going to be 18. That's right, because from here to here is 9. This is going to be 9, so the total it's going to be 18. Okay, what's the measurement of angle MLN? MLN is this one right here, and it's going to be the same as this one, so yep, 32. And then how long is QN?
9.
It's just 9. So pretty easy stuff there. Let's look on the back. So it says that this is a parallelogram, so these properties are going to be true here. So number 9 asks us to find the length of CD right here. So what's keeping me from knowing the length of CD? Is W right here. So how could I find the value of W? How am I going to set up something here to find that?
4W plus 8 equals 5W plus 1.
Okay, all right, good. So these two sides are congruent, so we're going to set 4W plus 8 equal to 5W plus 1. And then we're going to solve for W, so subtract 4W from both sides. This zeroes out. 8 equals 1W, or just W plus 1 minus 1. So that zeroes out, so W equals 7. Okay, so if W equals 7, how am I going to find the length of CD now? Plug it in. 4 times 7 plus 8. It's 36. And then for EF, 5 times 7 plus 1 is 36. Okay, those better be equal or we mess something up. All right. Now, to find angle F. So here's angle F. What's keeping me from knowing how big angle F is? That's Z. And I notice there's a Z up here also, so what am I going to do here to find the value of Z?
12 minus 3Z equals 180.
Okay, good, because these two right here are consecutive angles. They add up to 180. They're supplementary. So I'm just going to set 9Z minus 12 plus 3Z equal to 180. So combined like terms, we get 12Z minus 12 equals 180. Add 12 to both sides. That zeroes out. 12Z equals 192. Divide by 12. And Z equals what? 16. So if Z is 16, I'm going to take that 16, plug it in right there. 3 times 16 is 48. And then for angle E, I'm going to take 16 and plug it in right there. 9 times 16 minus 12 is 132. Or you could do 180 minus 48. That's right. Okay, true or false? Every parallelogram is a quadrilateral.
True.
That is true. That's just the definition of a parallelogram. You can look back there at the very first thing we said. A parallelogram is a quadrilateral. Okay, number 14. Every quadrilateral is a parallelogram.
True.
Okay. That's a trapezoid, or that's what I want it to look like. That's a quadrilateral. It's got 4 sides, but is it a parallelogram?
No.
No, so this says every quadrilateral is a parallelogram. That's a false statement. Okay, number 15 says all angles of a parallelogram are congruent. Okay, that sometimes would be true, like if it's a rectangle basically, where they're all 90, but most of the time, I mean, if it's like this, they're not all going to be the same. The opposite are always the same, but not all of them. So they're not giving us the option of sometimes here, so we'll just say that's false. Number 16, all sides of a parallelogram are, all sides of a parallelogram are congruent. And again, that's false. Okay, in number 17, it says in parallelogram RSTU. So the order of the letters matter here. So RSTU. RS is parallel to TU. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
That's true. Number 18. So in parallelogram A, B, C, D, angle A is 50 and angle C is 130.
Well,
That's false. Those should be equal. And you know that because like opposites are going to be like this. Those should be equal. Okay, and number 19. In parallelogram X, W, Y, Z, X, Y. Oh, that's talking about a diagonal. X, Y is congruent to W, Z.
true.
Is that always going to be true? I'll try to exaggerate this. Well, it's still not going to get it done totally. But the answer is no, that's false. Sometimes they'll be equal, but not all the time. And then in number 20, in ABCD, AC bisects BD. And that's true. That's just that fourth property. Okay, so we'll run through the rest of these real quick. Number 21, what's the value of A? 6. What's the value of B? 9. What's the value of Y?
80. Oh,
100.
100. Remember, these two right here are going to be supplementary. And then what's the value of X? Is 80. Okay, number 22, what's the value of B? 9. B is talking about just from here to here, so it's going to be equal to this over here. Okay, so for X, it's talking about this whole angle right here. How big is this whole angle down here? Is 80, right? When you add 45 and 35, so how big is that whole angle up there? Nope, it's 100. Remember, these two are supplementary. And then Y is going to be 45, right? Okay, then down here, all right, opposite sides are congruent, so these two are equal. So what value of X is going to make those equal?
2.
X has to be 2, right? If you set 8 equal to 4X divided by 4, X has to equal 2. I mean, that just makes sense. So these two have to be equal. So what's the value of Y to make those equal?
3.
3. Because 3 times 3 plus 4 gives you 13, right? Then on number 24, what value of X makes this piece equal to this piece? 5. And then what value of Y makes this piece equal to this piece? Y has to equal 6. Because 4 times 6 is 24 minus 2 is 22.